the way from Bombay, especially to attend to this lecture. Kindly come forward. I don't see him.
I'm quite happy to be at the rear
and
listen to the lecture. Thank you very
much.
much.
Occupying a back seat. No,
Thanks.
That's not good. We would like you, together with your graceful wife Sheila ji, to come forward.
Sheila.
Yeah. Thank you again. The cards, ladies and gentlemen, which you have received, stated that the lecture shall be chaired by Honorable Kapila Vatsyayan ji. Unfortunately, she is indisposed today. She is having some stomach ache, some pain, and she has been to doctor and has come back only recently. The doctors have advised her complete bed rest, so she is not. She has expressed her deep regret and asked us to excuse her absence here. Instead of Kapilaji, we have requested Professor J.V. Shah, Director of LD Institute of Indology, to kindly be the replacement for Kapilaji and to kindly grace the chair of or to preside over this lecture. Our Jitu Bhai, who is also in charge of operating the laptop and the pictures, he is already there, and we welcome him. He comes all the way from Ahmedabad only for this lecture. He is also the person who knows Saryu Bahan, Dr. Saryu Doshi, very closely and from very near. She has been in touch with her for a very long time. So I would also request him to kindly introduce Saryu ji, and thereafter we shall start with the lecture. So Jitu Bhai, kindly would you come forward and introduce Saryu ji.
वैसे तो सरयू बहन के परिचय की आवश्यकता नहीं है। पूरे देश में जब भी मिनिएचर पेंटिंग की बात आती है तो सरयू बहन का नाम लिया जाता है। सरयू बहन ने अपने जीवन काल में मिनिएचर पेंटिंग्स पर बहुत काम किया है और उनकी उपलब्धि के स्वरूप 1997 में भारत सरकार द्वारा पद्मश्री अवार्ड दिया गया है। मार्ग आप सब जानते हैं कि भारत का एक सर्वश्रेष्ठ कला का मैगजीन है। इनके एडिटर रहे हैं और मॉडर्न आर्ट गैलरी के फाउंडर मेंबर भी रहे हैं। विश्व के शीर्षस्थ कलाविद मोतीचंद जी के शिष्या के रूप में उन्होंने काम किया और उन्हीं के मार्गदर्शन में उन्होंने थीसिस लिखी, पीएचडी की पदवी उपाधि प्राप्त की। जैन पेंटिंग्स में आपकी बहुत बड़ी मास्टरी है और इसी के चलते हुए रॉकफेलर्स स्कॉलरशिप भी उनको मिली थी और मिशिगन यूनिवर्सिटी में विजिटिंग प्रोफेसर के रूप में भी आपने बहुत काम किया है। मैं मानता हूं कि इतना परिचय पर्याप्त है, समय बहुत बीत चुका है। मैं एक बात और कहना चाहता हूँ, यहाँ हमारे साथ हमारे संस्थान के चेयरमैन निर्मल भाई और उनकी धर्मपत्नी शीलाबेन यहाँ उपस्थित हैं। आप लोगों को आश्चर्य हुआ होगा कि इन दोनों को यहाँ डायस पर क्यों बिठाया गया। आप उनके घर जाओगे तो पता चलेगा कि घर का एक भी कोना ऐसा नहीं है कि जो कला से सजाया न गया हो। दीवार पूरी मिनिएचर पेंटिंग से, घर की सारी दीवारें मिनिएचर पेंटिंग से सजी हुई है। इतने सारे आर्टिफैक्ट्स हैं उनके पास कि घर भी अब छोटा पड़ने लगा है। तो कला के बहुत बड़े जानकार हैं और ये दूसरा लेक्चर है बीएल इंस्टीट्यूट के द्वारा। पिछले साल यहाँ कल्पसूत्र के चित्रों पर एक लेक्चर हुआ था। आज उसी सिलसिले में दूसरा लेक्चर सरयूबेन राणकपुर के स्थापत्य और उसके इतिहास पर एक सुंदर अपने विद्वत भोग्य प्रवचन यहाँ देंगे। और ये पूरी जो सीरीज का कंसेप्ट कि जैन आर्ट का सीरीज होनी चाहिए, वो हमारे दूसरे जो वाइस चेयरमैन धनेश जी, उन्हीं की ये इच्छा थी कि बीएल इंस्टीट्यूट के द्वारा ये कार्य होना चाहिए। और आपने देखा होगा कि जो इसका आमंत्रण कार्ड, इनविटेशन कार्ड, उसमें जो कला थी वो सारी धनेश जी की परिकल्पना थी। तो हम धनेश जी को भी इस प्रसंग पर धन्यवाद देते हैं और मैं ज़्यादा वक्त न लेते हुए सरयू जी को आगे के लिए विनंती करता हूँ।
First and foremost, I want to thank Nirmal and Sheila, my dear friends, for arranging this talk, and to Dr. Tripathi and Jain Saab for inviting me here. It is indeed a great pleasure, and thank you. It is indeed a great pleasure for me to be here, and I'm delighted to have some of my friends here also. So it gives me a good feeling to be able to talk today. I want to first apologize for the delay. It just so happened that sometimes things keep going wrong. You know, something goes wrong, then you try to correct it, and something else goes wrong. And as Dr. Tripathi says, that sometimes that's a good omen. Well, I hope it is a good omen, and that you will all enjoy seeing the temple at Ranakpur, seeing the beauty of the temple, magnificence, its splendor, and understand the way in which it was conceived. So I now begin the talk on Ranakpur. Ranakpur is a place that has been talked about a lot. Its architecture has been talked about a lot. And I will tell you all the sort of things that are connected with it. So we'll begin with, this is, I can't see properly. Okay, this is, huh? Everything is going on today. Then oh, shall I? No, I don't need a chair. Just but I'm blocking this one. Okay. Anyway, let's start. I think we've had enough. So, talking about this is the temple of Ranakpur that I'm going to be talking about today. Next, please. Now, Ranakpur is situated between Udaipur and Jodhpur, right here, right in this province of Rajasthan, and it is a very famous temple there that we will be examining in various aspects today. It is, today it has lost most of its glory, and only the temple remains. But when it was built in the 15th century, there were many temples, and it was a bustling township which was there. So therefore it had a certain importance. And also what was very interesting was that since it was next to Kumbhalgarh, where the Rana of Mewar was, his fortress was, it was on a highway, and therefore it derived its importance from that strategic location that it had. Next, please. Now, as you can see, this particular, we are only seeing this temple now because the rest of the buildings around it and the township is gone. The township was built on this slope here, and right here there are other temples, and here is a river. So this little valley, this enclave within the forested hills of Aravalli, was given for this temple, was granted, the land was granted for this temple. Now the person who built this temple was a very important Jain merchant. His name was Dharna Shah. And Dharna Shah, the word Shah, Sa comes from the word Shah, and Shah comes from the word Sahukar. So Shah means really a business person or a money lender. So Dharna Shah was a young man, a very pious and very religious person. He came from a very distinguished family. Their family used to live in Sirohi, in a place called Nandia. And the family was known for many charities. They built temples, they had given dharamshalas, they had built cattle sheds where old cattle could be kept, and what we call panjra poles, where they could be looked after. And they were very well known for their charities, but above all, they were known as Sanghapatis or Sanghvis. And the reason for Sanghi is that they are the people who organize pilgrimages. They are people, well-to-do, wealthy people, pious people, devout people, who would then organize a pilgrimage to various places, and they took various Jain families with them. This was at their cost. And they were like, today we could say like travel agents, but they also paid for it. And therefore they were very, very highly respected in the community, because those who could not undertake a pilgrimage on their own could go in a group where everything was taken care of, and not only one pilgrimage place, but 2 or 3 or 4 pilgrimage places they would be able to visit with all comforts. So they were known as Sanghapatis or Sanghvis. And this family then moved from Nandia to Malgad in Mewar. And there, young Dharna Shah, he was quite young in those days, he was able to amass a vast fortune. And then his reputation as a very able, very resourceful, very astute businessman reached the court. And the Rana invited him to join the court. And after a few years, he made him his chief minister because of his very resourceful ways of working. So Dharna Shah became the chief minister. One night, Dharna Shah saw a dream. And in that dream, he saw a celestial vehicle in which heavenly folks go here and there. It is called the Nalini Gul Vimana. By Nalini Gul means a lotus cluster. So he said, this is the sort of temple I want to build. And with this proposal, he went to the Rana and he said to him, could you grant me a piece of land that I can build a temple there? So the Rana granted him this little enclave because there was water, there were forested hills, it was near Kumbhalgarh, and so that was the place which he thought was strategic enough to build this temple. But he made one condition, that when you build the temple, you must also build a township on that slope, as I showed you. So this was agreed between the two of them, and then Dharnasa started looking for a proper architect who would be able to translate his concept of this Nalini Gul Vimana into a temple. And he met many architects at that time, but unfortunately, this is the way the legend goes, none of them were able to satisfy his desire of what he wanted. So then what happened is he heard about a young architect very near this place named Depaka. And Depaka was not only young, but he was considered quite eccentric. But he still went to him, and between the two of them, they worked out a design which satisfied the two of them. And therefore, the construction of the temple began. For the temple, Dharnasa wanted the best, so he got marble from the quarries nearby, Sanana and Sauni, and the marble was brought from there, and this temple was built. Now, if you really look at this temple, in a way, it could be like a lotus lake, because these could be sort of half-open lotuses. This would be a bud and something like that. So, in a way, it could metaphorically represent a lotus lake. That is what he wanted. So, the beginning of the foundation of this temple was laid in 1387. That is what some inscriptions say. There is a contradiction that it was 1377, but most importantly, it was around 1380 that foundations of this temple were laid. When the foundations were laid, Dharnasa built his own house. He built a place for the monks to live. He built a shed where all the workmen could stay and eat. So he was very, very considerate about the comforts of all who were connected with this place. Next, please. Now, when you come to the temple, what you see today, of course, nothing is left. It's all barren and it's all forested. Barren in the sense there is no building around it. What you see here is that the place is like a fortress. You know, there are these high plinth, then the high wall over here, and it doesn't seem like you could go in. You know, the entrances it's like all built up, and how would you go in? It gives you no inkling whatsoever of what you would see inside. Because what you see inside is totally different. There are open courts, there are colonnaded corridors, there are high ceilings, all embellished with sculptures. But this particular exterior view gives you no inkling of that. Next, please. And on all four sides, there were 4 entrances that you can see here. And these entrance porches had their own little roofs and their pillars and their colonnades. So this is the entrance with which you enter the temple. And see the spires, and these are smaller shrines with their spires and this high wall. And totally unornamented, just a few string porches here or there, but otherwise no inkling of what it was. Next, please. As you enter in, the first thing you see is this sculpture. Really a remarkable piece with a head and 6 bodies or 7 bodies, 6 bodies it is, and the 3-dimensionality of it. You know, you can see that as you look up, the first thing you see as you enter is this. It's called Kichaka and very, very nice, deeply carved. And the sculptor is able to give the depth to it from, you see over here how much depth he has been able to give to it. Next. The next thing you see is this wonderful ceiling. The ceiling is made up of circular courses, and they diminish as they go up. And then we can't see this very clearly in the slide, but there are wonderful decorations of geometric motifs, of vegetal and floral motifs, and these struts of human figures. And this pendant, it comes down like this, and it's made of one stone, and carved with almost filigreed beauty. Next, please. This is what greets you as you come into the temple. What is significant is just look at it, look at the scale, look at the magnitude, it's wide, it's high, and it's